Hi guys, my name is Roxana. Welcome back to the new episode of the Rising Stars. And as always, I'd like to mention our sponsor, It's Montreal. So if you're lazy tonight, don't really want to cook, you can go and check out their website. And I have a very interesting actor today because you're an actor, a musician. You did a lot of voice work, so
Yep.
we'll talk about that a lot. I think we can get some advices for those that want to pursue.
For sure.
Lucas DiTecco.
Thanks so much for having me, Roxana.
Yeah, thank you very much for
Pleasure.
coming.
Thank you.
So let's start from the
Yeah.
beginning.
Sure.
Where and how were you a kid? Was it a childhood
When I
dream?
decided to become an actor, it must have been around the age of 4 or 3 even. I
You
used
still
to,
remember?
yeah.
Like four or three?
Yeah. There's something about watching movies as a kid where I was always very infatuated by the presence of an actor on a camera, in front of a camera. I used to just study how someone would act more than what they're saying. So study about the believability or the portrayal of what they're doing on camera. And also when I was 4, I used to put on the Beatles or music and just perform for my family. So that was already a bit of a sign. And then leading into primary school, I remember just wanting to be in the plays. Not a lot of things really inspired me, but the plays and acting did. And it was one of those feelings where you're just like, I feel like something special is bubbling here. And then gradually through high school, I was always into the theater classes, and then I went into the Dawson Theater program in CEGEP. And
why Dawson over, let's say,
it's funny. My sister used to be an actress, and she was in that program before, and she told me a lot about it. And I remember going to see her plays at Dawson and being like, "Wow, this is like amazing. This is like there was some kind of want and desire that I wanted to be a part of a very nice overall group of people. The bond seemed there, and like the affection and they had towards each other and towards creating stories together. And I saw one of the plays, I remember it was A Flea in Your Ear, and I was like, this is like what I would love to do. Like, go out after school, study a subject that you love in every single way. And they told me, they were like, it's a very intense program. Like, it's an intensive, like you're there sometimes from 8 in the morning because you do your other standard courses, and then you do rehearsals after, so you can be there till 10 p.m. And I was like, that sounds great. Like, if I'm doing something that I love, that's what I wanted to do. And then, so I did theater, at Dawson after that, and it worked out really good.
You mentioned that your sister, she was an actress too.
Yeah.
It's like a whole...
Now she changed. Now she's in Ottawa with gender studies and then law studies, and now she's getting a PhD. So it's like a completely different field, unlike me.
But I'm
the
just
artistic
thinking
one
about
now.
your parents. They were not shocked saying like, oh my God, like both kids and both actors.
I think my parents, like, they come from that generation where maybe some sort of stability and financial stability would have been good, but at the same time they were very like free, and they really allowed us to pursue what we wanted to do. And they could see, I think, that both of us had passions. And especially my father used to always tell me, like, I envy that you have a passion and that you're pursuing it as a full-time thing now. And just because we don't necessarily, as an actor, always have a regular salary yearly coming in every 2 weeks.
It's a roller coaster.
It's a roller coaster, but also if you're passionate about it, if you're good about it, you can really structure on how to keep a living and growth and evolve through your own way. And it feels really good, and I would say it feels even more satisfying than just getting something stable and comfortable for a long time. Yeah.
And so you finished your program?
So I was there from 2011 to 2014.
2014.
So 3 years.
How many years have you been in the industry?
I know, it's crazy. Professionally, I've been in the industry for 10 years now.
Did it change? How did it change? Sorry, it's a bit of an improv question.
No worries. Did the industry change? Yeah. I would say yes. Sometimes subtle things changed. I would say when I was new, there was like I was also younger, so I went into a French TV show. That was one of my bigger first roles that I booked at the time. It was like, I find they were still filming some types of younger audiences TV shows. I think maybe the style of certain, let's say putting it TV category wise, they change sometimes the audience that they're looking for. They change also like the style of how they want to interpret different stories nowadays. I think there's a lot of there's always been a lot of like police subject TV out there, but there's also a lot of politics. Like a lot of what's happening in the world now has
So it
to also.
became now even more pronounced.
Yeah, I would say that too. I also think the industry changed because through the last 10 years there was a pandemic. There was also a strike. There was a lot of different years where maybe there was like it was difficult to have always work. Sometimes sometimes that's the thing is like you get lucky because you have people that know you, and sometimes it's not just talent. It's like people that know you. It's like getting lucky and being in the right place at the right time. Sometimes it's just hard work. Sometimes it's trying 10 times, and 2 times out of those 10 you'll get it. You know, like it's and that's all about the field of work of what we chose to do. But to get back to your question, yeah, I believe there are certain changes around just the forms of being on set. But I do find the love and respect on set generally has not changed. Like I think it's always been a good feeling that you get from familiarity, from bonding with the director, from working with someone, and you realize 3 years later you go into an audition, you don't know who the director is, and it's the same director who's super happy to see you. Like those are genuine things that I find have not changed over 10 years. But sometimes things have to change because it's just survival. It's just how the industry keeps going, you know. It has to make some kind of small changes, I would say.
You did a lot of also, when I was looking through your resume, you
Yeah.
did a lot of French productions. You
Yeah.
have kind of like a balanced mix of
Yeah.
those differences.
So that's what I was kind of saying is when I was younger, like when I first, so I was like 20 years old when I started working more regularly. I was doing like, like I said, so that TV show was mostly almost like a Degrassi, like if you guys remember Degrassi, but in French. And so that type of French show was great because also the character was such I was a really evil, let's put it that way, evil kid who was had a lot of issues, and I had to go through that entire, and it actually gave me an arc. It wasn't like just a kid who ends up getting either put in prison or dies or something. Like it was like I had like an arc, and I actually was able to find my pursuit of happiness, let's say, if I actually still had some left. And then after that, I did like a few cop shows and a few, I did a short film too that was based on a story that a director wrote, and he was kind of like new at the whole game, but it was with some really known actors. So that was also cool, just kind of bonding with these like kids that were, or these guys that were actors since they were like 8 years old, and they were like more celebrities, but they were, it was cool to bond in a more smaller production with them because I saw kind of the more humane, like regular sides of them, which was cool. And then over time, I noticed my niche became commercials. Like all of a sudden I was doing a lot more commercials, and I would say now, especially in my last 3 to 4 years, 5 years, what I book usually is voice and commercial. I think that's like the second side of me. So I might just jump around the.
No, but as we were talking, I remember the first time we spoke, you mentioned that you were in a Walmart commercial.
Yes.
That's yes. And I guess it's cool because the voice work and the commercial, that are the one that allows you to.
Yeah, so I have like two sides of me, I would say. In theater school, a lot of my teachers would say, "You're funny. We get it. You're funny, and you're like you do a lot of like shtick, and you're very improv, and you do voices and all this stuff. That's a side of you we already know you can do. So show us something that you can, that can surprise us." And they were saying, "Be still and be serious, and it'll have a bigger effect on." And what's funny is after school, I booked a bunch of French shows by doing that. I was just serious, and these were all these like serious roles. And then naturally, I became full union, and then naturally you have commercial auditions, and I was noticing I have a lot of them. And sometimes one person would say, you know, commercials are great because they have a lot of, it pays well, it helps you invest in other projects, but is that necessarily all that you're passionate for? Do you want to just be selling a brand in a very corporate manner the rest of your life? Not necessarily, but I was also saying, but I might as well embrace this because I'm good at it. So I would just go, and that was the other side of me, the quick improv sketchy kind of like, or witty side of me.
And I agree with you that the in-person audition is much better because you can feel the energy, and you can get directed as well.
And there's like a humane side to it. If you're actually talking and like you mention something, they go, "Oh wow, I could tell you've done improv before," or there's a joke, or there's eye contact, there's something like, oh, and then when they tell you, yeah, you're getting it, like you're really getting the character side of it something. Like I find most of my auditions in person for fiction and commercial, 99% of the time led to either booking or a better, like, good chemistry in person.
Advices for people to be better in person, and I'm saying that because I joined the industry in the period of the self-tapes. So
Yes, I'm saying,
I'm a
of course.
post-pandemic
And
actor baby.
It's
different.
gone up immensely. Like
And
there's
it's-
way more self-tapes now than they used to be, too.
It kind of, it has pros and cons because it gives you opportunity to audition for anything, anywhere.
Exactly.
You can do your different choices, but then it alleviates completely that stress, that nervousness, that anxiety that you get when you are in person auditioning.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of them. I had one for the musical, and
You stressed?
well,
It can be stressful.
It's
still
yeah,
can,
it's
for
just
sure.
that whole part of, and like I'm like, why are you stressing out? You're just having fun. You're not.
But there's two.
But
I would say
still.
so. I would say there's two sides of stress. I think it's good to have a little bit of butterflies or a feeling of not necessarily stress, but like there's a lot of emotions going in you before, especially if you have a nice audition, you have something that really you connect with, that you care about. It shows that you also like care about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have any feeling about it,
Yeah.
then maybe it's a sign like you
Yeah.
really care about this. I would say it's like anything else. Practice makes perfect. Like with auditions, like I think the more you do them, the more you're just comfortable. And I think being polite, being kind says a lot too. Like you don't have to being on time. That also is less stressful because if you're rushing for somewhere and then they say, okay, you're in, and you just get in, then you don't really have time to decompose, to process what you're about to do. So that helps too. And I think self-tapes too, like the more you do them, like at first I remember I would look at my self-tapes and be like, oh my God, like which one is good? Like I wasn't a huge fan of watching myself perform all the time, but then naturally, because you have to do them all the time, there's a side to me that was like, no, okay, that's a good take. That I know, that's a good take. That one's, I'll move
How do
down
you
the
define
side.
it?
What's a good take for me?
Yeah.
I think you just get used to watching yourself act, and you get better at judging yourself, or get better at being like, no, you have to be kinder to yourself and also know what's good and what's less good. It's like anything else. The more you watch actors, you can tell like that's believable, that's credible. There I look in my essence, I look comfortable, I look like I'm doing well, you know? And a lot of times, like, and it also helps, I think my agent's like super good about that too. Not every agent does this, but she'll be like, hey, great self-tape. Hey, that was good. It made me laugh. Or like, oh, really great. Even if you don't book it, as long as you know, okay, good. Like, and you can give yourself credit too and be like, okay, good. Like I'm doing good. Or like I've made the person that's, representing me proud. Like that should be
My
already.
agent does the same thing.
And then you're like,
Yeah.
that also helps to be like, okay, let it go. You did it. You did.
You did what
Your
you
agent's
could.
happy. Good. I don't have to overthink too much about am I going to book it, because there's so many factors about booking stuff. I find it's like, yeah.
Did you ever had a station when, let's say at the beginning you got the script, you got the role, and you're reading it and like, no, not me. Reject.
I don't know if in big productions that's really happened. There's some big productions where I've been on set and I go, more in my early career, I go, I'm not 100% sure where I'm going with this yet. I'm kind of trying to find what this character is. There was a role I did as a paparazzi guy in a film when I must have been 22 or something. And it was a great role, and it was a bigger, I auditioned for the small role and they liked me and they put me into a bigger role. And it was still like, it was like a 1 day, 12, 15 hour shoot. It was a long shoot, but it was like a cool role. And I remember looking back at it and being like, I did good, but I just played kind of what was given to me. Like I wish I would have found more of something special out of it.
Played a bit with the character.
Yeah, even though it was just a guy, because in the end, he's, I don't know, there could have been a lot of things that you could have done once you see what you did. Like, what's the reason for why this paparazzi guy is following around the main character all the time? What's his, like, actual goal? Or, like, is he just actually, it can be representative of the media. A lot of people that are in that, they don't really, not to, like, judge necessarily everybody in that type of world, but that's their job. They don't really care about the humanity of the person. They just want to get the footage of them leaving their apartment and coming back in. So I feel like I could have played around with that. I wanted to say though there was other opportunities when I was younger where for smaller independent productions or for stuff they would be like, do you want to play this? I remember one time there was a guy who was saying, I'd really like you for my short film I'm doing, and I was like, okay. And I read the script, and the character you want me to play was extremely abusive, but I just remember reading the scene of the abuse and being like, it's just that. Like, there's not much else besides just he abuses this person.
There's
no like other
depth
exactly.
Of the
like I like playing quote unquote evil people and bad people, but there has to be kind of like some meaning to it, or what's there's thicker layers to that. It's not just like. So I remember saying like, I'm not really comfortable with this. I'm sorry. I don't think I'm gonna do this. And he was like, oh, okay, and he kind of tried to convince me, and I was like, no, and he was like, okay, never mind.
So interesting, right?
Yeah.
So it's not really related to the character itself. It was more related to the character being, I'd say,
less defined, or like there was
playing.
yeah. It was just kind of like play this instead of like be this person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you see? So are you Anglophone, Francophone?
I'm bilingual.
So there's
it's
no
funny,
difference
my
in
mom's
acting.
Quebecois and my dad is Ontarian Italian. I learned both French and English when I was very young, but I learned, like I was taught in English 90% of my life. Dawson was Anglophone, my high school was Anglophone. But my mom's Quebecois and I would always speak French with her. And I was lucky actually because I thought, well, let's try actor out. Let's try to see if I can get some English stuff. And then naturally, I remember my agent at the time was like, oh, you speak French. Like you speak like anybody in Montreal. And I was like, I guess. And then she's like, okay, good. We're going to audition you in French. And I was like, oh, really? Like I don't have to, like, because I thought, well, I come from an English program, so maybe I don't have any credit to be in French. And then I just got lucky and booked that show. And then all of a sudden I was like full member in French. And it's funny because some years 90% of what I book is in French, and then only recently, I would say like this summer, I've booked actress stuff, and I was like, nice. Like I forgot about actor. Like it's like I like actor. Like it's cool. Like I like to do the voice stuff. I like to do yeah.
But do you have any? Do you feel there is any difference for you to perform in French versus English? Any differences in approach, script memorization, lines memory, like?
I think generally my brain, more often than not, thinks in English. So I think it's a little bit easier for me to be comfortable in English. I was told at one point too, I do have a slight, like I'm perfectly bilingual, but if you listen and you're just French, or you're either from France or you're like a full Quebecois, and you listen to me speak in French, you'll say he's bilingual, but he has the anglicisme. Like, he says things that you can tell he's a little more Anglophone. And that got to me a little bit where I was like, oh, I want to do more French work and all these different things, but can I actually do it? Or, do I seem like an Anglophone from everybody who's in the
so kind
industry?
Of got in a little bit under...
A little under my skin, or like in my head a little bit. But then I remember practicing, and I would like... And then over the years, I got much more comfortable. And like I said, and then like I remember last year, like almost everything I did was in French. And all your idea, and then like this year, all of a sudden, oh, here's an actor thing, cool, and like I did this vocal project with this company, and it was for this, it's for the Omega Park in Quebec anyway, but that was in English, and I was like, oh, cool, and then with that company, they got me to do more English stuff, and then all of a sudden I did 2 video games, and it's all these things that I'm like, oh wow, like it's awesome. Like I think voice work really channels the English side of the industry for me, because it helps me kind of like hone in on like, oh, the different types of ways I can do voices and how I speak, and there's still that little comfort. In French though, I love to do voice work too, but in French I've noticed I've done a lot more like it's like I'll do commercials, like I'll do I voice, here's an example, I voice the little bear in the Bear Paw commercials for the cookies. So it's like this particular voice, and I'll sell that product from that voice, and it's very fun. But
I can't imagine you speaking like a little bear. How would it sound?
It's funny. So that audition, should I do it in French or in English?
Whichever is comfortable.
Well, I remember it was like, let's say that, I think it was Salut la gang, je suis ici pour vous montrer les nouveaux pas d'ours. And I went, Salut la gang, je suis ici pour vous montrer les nouveaux pas d'ours. And they were like, and I got I got the gig, and then I pull up to the gig, and I was like, so I do that, and they're like, that's good. Can you make him more bear?
More bear?
So I went, salut la gang! Aussi, je suis ici pour vous montrer les nouveaux saveurs de pâte d'ours. And it was like this whole thing. And then they were like, that's it. So it just became more raspy. And that became the voice of the bear. And then it's 6 years later, and I still do that bear every summer. So it's just funny. It's like how you book things.
It's the pâte d'ours, it's the cookie?
The bear paws.
Oh,
yeah,
I know those.
Cookies, yeah.
No,
So it's just funny. Yeah. And so, I kind of went off on the original subject of differences between
I'm
French
also
and
like,
English.
I got lost. Yeah, the difference between French and English.
But that's kind of how you hone in on like, oh, there's certain things that like maybe on the French side you can like reach more for. I think commercials, I almost think sometimes I'm like, oh, English commercial, like it's going to be great. And then I go in there and I'm not even as used to doing English commercials. So sometimes there's like like maybe how I sell something in French doesn't always translate 100%
It's almost
in
like
English.
you skewed to different type of the production by
Exactly.
stream.
Yeah, kind of thing. Or like how you get good at something in a certain style is different from each type of like viewer or each type of audience. I think acting on set or in theater, the main differences is like there's even styles. Like even a French production and for a show is going to be very different than an English production. But I always try to just listen to the director, take in what I want and what I think will be believable from the script. I think if the writing is good, then it'll translate well, which I think goes for both French and English. Like good writing is the best, and like a good director is like the cherry on top, you know?
What is the good director?
Sorry?
What does it mean, a good director?
Someone who's like really, who just treat you, first of all, like approaches you, or treats you as a human being, is friendly, but doesn't have to be necessarily like, hey buddy, like we're about to do a shoot together or whatever. But because sometimes you can say almost nothing, but respectable in their presence and gives you very clear, but super straight up, simple direction. Like, sometimes people would just tell me like, do it this way, but think about this. And it doesn't mean like, say the line this way, or like you can tell that they're like stressed out and they're like, blah, like that's less, I've had in situations like that with other directors where it was less easy. With a good director, they'll tell you one little piece of advice and you're just like, oh, okay, great. And then you do it and they're like, perfect. And then not much else has to be said, you know? They don't say, okay, now's the moment where you have to cry. Like they just tell you like, feel that moment and you'll know, and just be present with your actor.
It's not like babysitting.
Exactly. Yeah, I would think that's like my main things about being with a good director is just like clear, very simple direction, and also letting you, like if they're also like free with letting you do your thing, they're good at finding like, oh, he's in it. Oh, he's lost it. Oh no, he's in it. Okay, great. Like, and then they you know, like they know what take worked because they can see that you're doing well.
Let's talk about another big stream that you have and you have been successful. There is the voice work, right? And you did a bunch of different and the commercial voiceover, voice work, and
I did some cartoons. I did
video
games. I did audiobooks. Yeah.
I have a couple of questions on that topic. Question number one is also advices for the people on how to book more voice work, because eventually that's also one of the stream that if you do a lot of work, in that sense, it brings you some financial stability as well. But then you can play around with that. It can be fun as well, different characters. Advices on how to do that one better.
I think it's funny. I always think about voice acting as sometimes people will go, oh, like being a voice actor, you need to be quick with doing voices, which in theory, there is part of it. Like if you have a fluidity and you're naturally better at manipulating your voice, that's something that will help you and it'll be easier for you to do that all the time. But what I think was nice is bringing the authenticity and the bringing a character. It's not just like doing a voice. It's like, what is the character? It's you're portraying a character.
You still do your character analysis work.
Exactly. And it's like, what I love about voice auditions is usually they just give you like a visual and the lines. So if you look at that visual, what do you first, like what's the first thing that comes in your head is like, what is that voice that's going to happen? Like, what do you hear when you see that? Then it's also getting into practice. I think it helps to practice to see what your range is naturally. People want to go into voice acting. Generally, it helps to have a good range of like, here's the high pitch voices I can do. Here's the semi pitches, and then here's the lower register that I can do. I can go on because it's like also like a book. Like I can do a whole Bible of like different sides of voice acting because there's also like there's different genres. You're not gonna, I would say, necessarily go into a video game gig with the same vocal tone as going into a commercial gig. There are similarities, but you're not gonna like you should have a commercial voice demo, you should have a animation voice demo, and you should have a video game demo,
writing
audio.
down in my head, oh, okay.
And it's also subtlety, and it's like not just pitch. It's like, where is the voice coming from? Are you blocking your nose? Is it nasal? Is it in the back of the throat? Are you like manipulating other parts?
Do you do physicality like when you're doing?
Sometimes, like for example, I did a video game this week, and I really had to like get into it. But that was more because like I was playing somebody who was like, I'll say quote unquote, can't say too much, but like a prisoner, and you have to really play the fear, and you have to play the. Like you're trying to break out of like a room, and you're putting in physicality in your voice, and also fear. So there's like the whisper part of it, but also you have to be like a stage whisper. So there has to be a projection within that whisper. There's a lot of things going on in voice acting, more than you think, but it's also awesome because you can just be in a studio and you're in that world within the studio. And it's funny, like when you're on camera, I'd say the crew is looking at you. When you're on stage, the audience is looking at you. When you're in the studio, voice studio, the producers are looking at you, but also like the project is looking at you. It's almost like you're trying to like visualize what you're portraying with your voice and with your physicality to bring the character to life.
Are there any, I don't know, exercises or anything that you can
do
at
more.
home? No, okay.
I don't necessarily do them, but you should do more.
Do they exist?
In voice acting, in voice class, when I was in theater, we used to do a lot more of like oh my god, like all that like present. But that's more when you're about to do a show where you're going to project and yell. Then yes, you should warm up your voice. Practicing your regular rhythm, like everything is kind of like. Dude, that big hat fell upon my, like it's all these things of like rhythm and pattern, up and down and also like there's this whole method we learned where it's like speaking. These are, I think, very good for performance on the stage and practicing. I would say in general, like if you're about to do a gig where you really have to like put some strain on your voice, then you should drink a semi-warm liquid. Apples are really good before gigs. They help to just clear and like have your voice, vocal cords in shape. I have a bad habit of being a coffee drinker, so I'm always drinking coffee, and maybe sometimes I shouldn't be right before
coffee is not good for your vocal cords?
Well, they say caffeine can a little bit affect it, irritate it, it depends. Or if you go with something really cold, like sometimes people would tell me like ice cold water is not necessarily good for your voice either. You should have like a room temperature water or a tea, but not too hot. And then just prepare your voice a little bit, because if you go straight into yelling, you're going to put strain on your voice. And even sometimes like you can only do a certain amount. Like I've done gigs where I have to do 4 hours of voice work. After 3 hours, you're already starting to feel like, okay, like I'm getting tired. Like more than 4 hours you shouldn't do as a voice gig, because there's only a certain amount of strain that you can give on your voice. But also it's a tool, right? So, and it's an instrument. So the more you work it, the better it is also, I would say.
What is the approach? Let's say you got an audition for a voice work for a book narration versus video game or curtain character versus let's say commercial, right?
Yeah.
How different your approach would be in terms of preparation and doing this audition? I mean, eventually, yes, the voice would be different, but the approach of the preparation?
I think I go with kind of everything. I kind of have the same approach for voice as I do for acting on camera or on stage. Is what's the first instinct that comes out of your mouth, literally, when looking at the character? Mm-hmm. So if they say, we're looking for voice, they might say, we're looking for this type of voice, or we're looking for a higher pitch, kind of like they'll bring out, and they'll give you sometimes references. Think of this character from this show. Yeah, so you're like, okay. But you don't necessarily want to just be like, oh, let me do an imitation of that character, and that's exactly what's going to get me the gig. That sometimes can work, but I would think give a kind of loose interpretation of that character going off of what your own interpretation is to build what you want from that audition. And then what I like to do is my first day for voice, I'll do 5, depends on how anal I can get, but 5 to 10 takes, usually less than 10, but let's say 5 to 8 different takes of my ideas for this voice. Boom, boom, boom. And sometimes I'll go like, well, that one's, excuse my language, but I'll just say that one's trash. And then I'll say, that one's good, and I'll save them. And then I'll just sleep on it, and the next day come back to it. And then usually the next morning with a fresh ear, it's like, oh, actually, that one's really good. Okay, that one's cool. And sometimes I'll go, I don't know, like the rest of the day, the first day, I'll be like, I don't know how those turned out. And I'll listen to the next day, like, actually, these are great. Like, okay, cool, boom, boom. Or I'll go like, yeah, that one I got to add more. And then I'll either pick my best 5 or rework 2 or 3 and know that I have 2 that I really want from there. And usually if you have like 3 to 4 takes that you like, send them all in, because it's better to have more than one good reading for a voice audition. I would say 2 to 3.
So 2 questions more, sorry, on this one. So let's say you say that if you have 3 or 4, do they necessarily need to be completely distinguishable one from another, different one from another? Or sometimes you can see or hear the subtle
I think
differences,
both.
And you would still...
It's happened to me for both reasons, where sometimes I'm like, oh, there's something a little bit different in that one. But it's like
sometimes you can't really understand.
But even in the studio, sometimes I'll do like 4 back-to-back. And they're like, that's great, Luca, just a little more diversity, because sometimes I'm just like, oh, I'll try it, boom, 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 and then just little things, and then sometimes they'll tell you like, okay, do like, and I also think in voice acting, actually, it helps to be good at taking direction. Like sometimes they'll be like, try it like, oh, okay, and then if you're good at just repeating what you just heard, like not saying like just copy what people tell you, but it helps to have an ear, because then you can see, oh, the style, what they're going for, and then put a little twist on it from your own interpretation on it, and then you can really be efficient.
Do you do the same thing with the auditions? I mean, do the auditions, put them aside, sleep on it, and then
sleep
go back?
On it and then go back.
Yeah. I never heard
for voice, especially because I got used to it. Because a lot of times there was a big period of time where, I mean, to this day, most of my auditions, through the week, it'll be like, okay, I have 3 voice auditions to do. One of them's due Thursday, one of them's due Wednesday, one of them's due Friday. And I have a commercial audition in person on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So the commercial audition is separate that, know the script. Okay, that's going to be a fun vibe. We'll just go with it in person. That, and I find when you get also easier with commercials, you can kind of just be like, we'll see what happens, improvise off the vibe, and oh, it's a cool production, great. So I worry a little bit less about that, and then I go with the voice, I go, okay, let me bang out 2 or 3 of that audition. Sometimes I do 2 at once. Sometimes, okay, that was not due till Friday at noon, so I'll come back to that later. And then I sleep on it at least one night, and then I come back to it. I think it really helps, because sometimes I would just be like, I need the perfect take now. Mm-hmm. And you start going insane because you listen to the same thing over and over.
And then sometimes you can't really even understand the difference.
It's the same thing as when you do takes of a self-tape, or after a certain amount of takes, how good are you going to get that take, because you kind of broke out of that, Mm-hmm. I think 3 to 5 is always like a good, perfect little balance of the amount of times you should do something.
But I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, I never thought of actually, because you're right, like usually the deadline, sometimes we get the luxury of having like 2-3 days to prepare. Sometimes it's like, no, like it's due tomorrow. Yeah. And then, I'm always also like rushing, okay, like I just need to get it, like off my plate. Yeah. But that's a very good thing. You're right, like to
It'll
go
happen
back.
Still where I'll be like, oh, it's due tomorrow. Sometimes that's life of being an actor. Your agent will be like, hey, Luke, I need this for tomorrow at 4. And it's like 3 p.m. You're like, okay. So I have to learn it tonight and then do it. And sometimes you don't necessarily have time to sleep on it and then go back in the morning because you have stuff to do. So sometimes I'll go, okay, give it a couple hours, or I'll just in the moment be like, this is good, this is good, this is good. But I do like to have that feeling of letting it breathe, letting it digest.
And you're right, like even if it's due tomorrow, give it a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Go back and rewatch.
Exactly.
I mean, like I'm collecting, as someone who is relatively new to the industry, I'm collecting a lot of advices also for myself and how to approach audition differently. What was the most weird or unusual role that you've done so far?
Different things, I would say. There's certain commercial stuff I've done that are kind of bizarre in terms of like just how many times can you feel like it almost feels hokey. Like how many times you have to do something like, especially things with, I would say, food. It's like smelling a pot roast and be like, it smells great. Like that, or like eating a Joe Louis. Like I had to do that for a thing, and it was just like, how many times am I going to eat Joe Louis and just be like that feels a little bit absurd, and like you have to be like, what am I doing? Like sometimes you can't help but be like, what am I doing with my life? Like this is what I'm doing for a living. So you kind of have to break off that feeling and just kind of accept it. I would say that sometimes it wasn't bizarre, but there were controversial like roles where I was like, I had to play a character for a French show in 2021 who was like very mentally handicapped, and I remember thinking like, I want to do this respectably and properly and not do any kind of like fake version of something. Cliche type, exactly. And be like, this is how people are when they're this way. And I remember I did a lot of research for it, and I remember channeling a lot of my inner child, like when I was like 2 or 3 years old. So because it was basically this guy was like a kid in a 24-year-old body. So, and I remember going on stage and going on set, and people would tell me like, oh, it's really good, by the way, what you're doing. And I was like, okay, like as long as I'm just doing a good job for the production, then it's great. And in the end, it actually ended up being like a really awesome situation and opportunity. And I really actually appreciated that I did that, because sometimes I really like to do those more challenging characters rather than just, there's two sides to it, you know. I love doing very quick satire, or not satire, but like just like sketches, like product stuff. But sometimes I obviously miss doing like actual character interpretation and like deep stuff. So you kind of go off of what you can do and also just keep evolving. So eventually you can do as much as you can and want through both those worlds.
You're also a musician.
I am also a musician.
You had shows in August, right? You have a few coming up.
I would say just a little history there, but this is like a side note, but I there was a period when I still want to finish this where I was getting into writing. Based on some personal stuff that happened in my life, I wanted to write a script. And I didn't write all of it, but I was doing a big chunk of it. And then I was like, oh, this is good as side passion. But also in the back of my head, like since I was a kid, I always had music in my head, and I loved music. I used to always just hear music in my head, or I would just interpret music, and I would imitate what people would say and make it musical all the time. And in 2016, I started live looping. So I would record my voice and add loops to it, or add effects to it, and then keep building off of harmonies and melodies. And I was doing that more as a pastime. And then in 2021, I was like, oh, I kind of want to do more of that. And I started going to jams, and I started going and I had a lot of musician friends that I met through different types of people, one of them being a good friend of mine from theater who decided to not do theater and acting and pursue music after. But through that gang, basically, I ended up doing music, and I was like, no, actually, I think I want to be like a producer who's also an actor. And it doesn't mean that it also wasn't a thing where there was this crazy pressure where I was like, I got to be a full-time musician and also and a successful at both. I was like, no, I think it's kind of cool. Like, and not a lot of people are fortunate enough to have already that acting experience and stability that can help you pursue music in a different way.
That's where your commercial and voice work that helps you to feel
exactly.
like all the
and also that you can interpret that. I think that also helps you when you do music, because you're also kind of performing in different characters as when you do music. And I still had that improv background, and so I would like to just go and do music in an improv way, and I would go and I would just sing with the band, and I have a pretty good ear, not to toot my own horn, but so that helped. And I would just get more and more into it. And I started doing more of the looping stuff. And then naturally, I picked up guitar 3 years ago. A few friends of mine showed me some stuff, and that was really cool. And I got really into it. And now I just like making beats, and I like produce beats, and I do music live. Yes. So I performed at Casa del Popolo recently, which was really cool with my friends with a band. It went really well. My friend's project is going again at Casa del Popolo in March, so we're going to do it again in March. Naturally, I have a lot of friends in the music industry that ask me, like, do you want to open for me? So I have 3 shows in October that I'm going to do that. So it's kind of funny because I'll be like, I have so many things to do. Like, how am I going to, like, schedule everything? But
it's like snowball effect.
Yeah.
One attracts another.
But it helped me to do music on the side a lot because I'll be honest, waiting from one opportunity to the other can be very difficult, and it can really take I'll tell you, when you're just expecting, like, oh, I need an amazing audition, and you look and, oh, how come I wasn't in that audition, or how come this is happening around here? And I was at the time, like in 2016, 2017, 18, I was working at restaurants, and I was like, I don't want to work in restaurants. I want to be like, by the time I'm 30 to 35, I want to like not be in restaurants anymore. And I was just waiting for auditions, and I was kind of just in that loop of just kind of doing that. And what am I really doing usually? It was just like, I was just kind of messing around with my friends and doing that kind of vibe for a while. And then I got lucky, and then I became I was very fortunate and thankful to become a full-time musician basically as of 2019.
Oh, wow.
So I was like 25, 26 when I officially did that. But also, like, the music industry really helped me because sometimes you'll be like, oh, I want to do that audition, or oh, it's been a little less busy this week. Not as many auditions, or there's not been, but I have all these music shows I have to do. So let me work on music. And then all of a sudden your agent calls you had 4 auditions. It's like, okay, so you have to like, it can seem a little hectic, but at the same time, for me, it really grounded me to be like, you're an artist. It's not just that I'm an actor. Yeah. It's not that I'm a musician, I'm an artist. So I always have art to do and create. And it helped me kind of confirm that for myself too, to be like, you're a creator. You're not just an actor.
But that's also another thing. You would hear it often that you can't get attached to any of the audition or the role that you audition for.
God,
like you do it and you let it go.
It's instinctual. Like you probably will, and you still have to. But yeah, you shouldn't.
But when you have other things to do which are also related to the creative part, it kind of helps you to disconnect and to kind of let it go. Yeah. So it allows you not to be in that constant.
And I think actors and maybe artists in general, they are kind of normal. I guess normal to think that way. Like, you're hypersensitive. Like, I'm definitely hypersensitive, and I would say most actors or artists can be hyper connected to something. So when you get an amazing audition, or sometimes you'll get, which is sometimes like even worse, not worse, but they will be like, hey, they're thinking about you for this role. But that's all you get, just that email. And you're just like, what does that mean? Okay, and then you go in your head and you have built this whole film in your head where you're like, oh my God, what if I book it?
You already got Oscar for that.
Yeah, exactly. And then before you know it, 4 months go by and you're like, in the end, it didn't happen. You're just like, oh, so like you gotta kind of like be aware that maybe your brain is gonna function that way, but you get better at just being like, day by day, week by week, look at what you have to do this week. Oh, that's cool. And like, look how lucky I am to be surrounded by a beautiful community and doing art full time, no matter what. Like, every week I have art to do, and that's like pretty amazing, like, it doesn't have to be like, when I was younger, I was like, well, what does success mean? Do I have to be famous? Do I have to be in Hollywood? Do I have to be, the most whatever bilingual actor in Montreal? Like, whatever, all these types of things and things that you can like think about. But down the line, it's like, no, actually, like, what's your own interpretation of success? Sure, you can say, oh, I want to like evolve this part of me. I want to have more of this in the future, more of that, whatever. But in a way, being a full-time artist, if you're passionate about it, I would say is great. And that's a pretty big, like, that's already a big feat, like, and that's what you have to tell yourself and you'll naturally see your evolution go over the years. Yeah,
but in the end, I agree with you, because for me also, like, as someone who's coming from the corporate world, there the success is measured, right, like by the salary and the position and the speed of your career growth. And then when you shift to a completely different area, which I did, then what is success? In the end of the day, it's doing what you love and enjoying what you're doing.
Exactly, and like being, would say, like, I always try to inspire people and create with people and build beautiful relationships off of art. I think that's also success, you know, like, what do you get out of that? It's not just like how many people are looking at your things or how many people said good job. It's not necessarily that either. You know?
Advice to people who decided to pursue their acting career or pursuing acting art.
Congratulations, honestly, right off the bat. Like, if you want to pursue and you know that you're passionate about something, that's already a big step. You just have to there's a lot of things. I would say be patient, be kind to yourself, focus on what you can see. That's, I think, what will define you as an artist down the line. Instead of just being like, I want this much amount of money, I want 3 cars, I want a house. Like, those are only physical, materialistic. Thank you. That's the only materialistic side of it. Versus, so be patient, be kind to yourself. Also, take criticism, but also know that don't take anything too seriously either. Having someone who is kind to you that can also tell you what to do, for example, a really good agent really comes a long way. I think, like, I'm very grateful for my agent. I'm sorry if I'm keep tapping the mic. I'm sorry, and I apologize. I'm very thankful for her. She's like a family member to me. It really goes a long way. Someone to call you and just to have a conversation with, not even just like, let's talk about work. Let's just talk about life, because, again, that's the human side of, like, and you're still saying we're working together, but just in a different way. You're just talking about things. And in the end of the day, like, not a lot of people can say, wow, I just had an hour conversation with my agent about life. It wasn't work related. It was just about, like, how are we doing? Like, I saw you did this. I'm happy for you, all that. Like, that's like a real relationship, you know? It's not just a paper. It's not just a check.
I'm just not sending the email, hey, you have the audition.
Exactly. So that, and I would say, just like, yeah, be really proud of your work and keep pushing at it. I think naturally people that go into the business will find a lot of different beautiful, special things throughout time once they give it a shot and stick with what they like about acting, what they want to do with acting. And it might not be necessarily what you think when you first had the idea of joining the acting community, but it could be amazing, and it probably will be.
What's next for Lucas? Music shows?
That's a good question. Like, literally, or you just mean like, what do I want?
Well, I mean, like, in the upcoming, I don't know, like, foreseeable future, projects, ideas.
So I did 2 video games, voice-wise, which are going to be pretty exciting. I can't really say too much about it because they're a little secretive about it, but those are going to be pretty cool.
You signed the NDA, I guess, right?
Yeah. A lot of commercials and voice I've done recently too. A lot of cool projects I've done vocally with different projects around Montreal that are kind of branching out now, which might lead to my voice being a part of different events, whether it's like the Old Port or, like I said, I did one project for the Omega Park in Montebello, and music a lot too. And yeah, I think in general, what's new for me is just like, I'm still kind of defying that, but I'm still like 10 years into this, and I'm still like along for the ride, like
enjoying the journey.
Week. Yeah, exactly. Like some week I was like, okay, I have to do this now, and I have 4 more projects, and then it's like, oh, okay, actually I have time to decompress, and like I need a vacation, like all these things. But yeah, I think in general that's kind of what's happening right now.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I enjoyed the conversation. I think
it's been
I
awesome.
learned also a lot, and there are a few things that I'm like, I never thought of
Yeah.
putting and returning back to the auditions
Yeah.
or that kind of stuff. So I hope
sure.
that it was also very useful for the audience as well. So thank you very much for taking
been
your
a
time
pleasure.
today.
Thank you.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the conversation and looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of Rising Stars.